Hey, this is a quick example of showing debugging FastBasic Live in Visual Studio Code against an emulator. Uh, I do a lot of programming in FastBasic, and having something like this would really make it a lot easier to debug the more complicated programs. So I have a pretty simple program here. I'm just going to go ahead and hit F5 to run it. It will compile it and then run it in the emulator, and we can see it's pretty simple. It has a variable called A. It prints it out a couple times. It prints hello world, and then it has an array of players that it just signs an ID and a name, and then it prints it at the end. So pretty simple stuff. So what I'm going to show is how we can set a breakpoint and step through the code. So I'm setting a breakpoint on the third line here. I'm going to run it again. And this time we see it stops and it pulls out all the variables. Right now only A and I are accessible. The others have not been initialized yet, so it's smart enough to know, not to show the variables that you can't change. What I'm going to do is just double click A, change it to 42, and hit F10 to step to the next line. It'll execute this line. So there we go, we see it printing A equals 42. We'll do the same thing. It creates a string, hello world. I'll change that to hi there. F10. There we go. All right, now it's going to dimension some variables. You can see that it pops up here on the left. Um, all the numbers are set to 0 and the strings are not initialized yet. You actually have to set a value for every string before you can see the, modify it and see it. So I'm just going to hit F10 and step through the loop, the for loop. We can see it's building the player value. It's incrementing I. Now it's at 1, etc., etc. I don't want to keep stepping through here, so I'm going to set another breakpoint here and hit F5 so the program will just run until that step to that line. There we go. We can see all the values have been created, so I'm just going to step through this last loop. Here we go, hello player 0, player 1. Before I proceed to the others, I'll just change the names. Awesome player. And maybe this ID of this guy, 999. And then I'll just hit F5 to run it to completion. And there we go. So yeah, it's a really quick example of this integration I'm working on. There's other things like it will compile, so you'll still get the errors. So if you say if A equals 1 and try to run it, it will say, unclosed if at line 6. So you'll get some of that conveniences as well. So yeah, let me know if you're interested and want to try it out. Hopefully we'll have something available to work with in the next week or so. Thanks.